Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Razan Pereira. Well, Jharkhand has joined the bandwagon of opposition-ruled states that have withdrawn general consent for an investigation by the Central Bureau of Investigation. Several other states such as West Bengal, Rajasthan, Maharashtra and Kerala had withdrawn their general consent earlier. The move, which makes it necessary for the central agency to get the state government's permission to conduct investigations in the state, comes a day after Kerala also withdrew the privilege. The CBI is governed by the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, or the DPSEA. This law makes the CBI a special wing of the Delhi police, and thus its original jurisdiction is limited to Delhi. Recently, a Calcutta High Court order expanded its jurisdiction to investigate the central government employees in West Bengal without seeking specific consent of the state government. For other matters, the CBI needs consent of the state government in whose territorial jurisdiction the CBI has to conduct an investigation. This is unlike other central government agencies, for example, the National Investigation Agency, which by law enjoys an all-India jurisdiction. In this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze the CBI's powers, states and general consent. Joining me on the program today are ML Sharma, former Special Director, CBI, Dr. Vikram Singh, former DGP, Uttar Pradesh, and Sangram Patnaik, Advocate of the Supreme Court. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. All right, Sangram Patnaik, let me start the program with you first. Let's get a legal perspective and a legal understanding as far as what the CBI law says and what is general consent.
The fact of the matter is, when the concept called the CBI started way back in 1942 and given shape and size in 1946, the requirement of CBI was different nature than of today. Now, when it was initially started, way back for the, to how to have a clean system during World War time, World War II particularly, and now it is a different concept altogether. Now, what is that CBI stands for? It is to check that, whether there is economic crime is happening, special crimes, corruption cases, high-profile cases. So, as on date, you are aware that yes, almost about 8 states have taken off their consent. Now, the consent as per the Act itself, Section 5 and Section 6, where whether a state can withdraw the consent at any point of time. Answer is yes, it can. But whether this consent are, of late has given a political nature. People are saying that the CBI is a cage parrot. It can be manipulated by the central government, the state government, and the government of the day can manipulate. My answer to it is no, it cannot, and it should not also. It's an independent agency. It should investigate. But insofar as the legal aspect goes, whether the state after withdrawal of the consent, can there be an investigation into the affairs where if there is a subject matter which is staying in the, for example, in West Bengal or Mizoram or in Kerala, can you go for the investigation? My answer to it is yes. Why I'm saying? Now, if the incident has already occurred and the investigation is the mid-process, you can certainly go ahead. Number 2, suppose you would say that yes, the subject matter is at a place where the consent is not being given or taken away. Can you not do it? Answer is yes, you can do it because of the Calcutta High Court judgment. Yes, you can do it because you cannot certainly evade the process of adjudication of the dispute or even for that matter, the investigation in the midway. Third is a situation where you would say, there are few persons, powerful people, like they are staying in Delhi. There is registration of FIR in Delhi. The part of cause of action arose in Delhi. And the person shifted back to Kerala or to Mizoram or to Maharashtra. Can you proceed against those people? Answer is yes, you can proceed. So why all this fuss about? Why all this debate about that? No, since the 8 states have already withdrawn and we have a cooperative federalism and Schedule 2 says that yes, the police is a state subject. So therefore, the center should not interfere. I don't think somewhere we are, missing the line. And there is a gap between cup and lip. Why? Because unless until there is a CBI investigation is in the process, the fact of the matter is that truth should come out, right? Right. And if the investigation is already being done or in the process of being done, it should not be derailed. Sure. Second, the most and the moot question is, people are saying that CBI is being, it's a, you are putting in the control of the central government, so you cannot touch it. My answer to it is up to the CBI, whether to be independent or not be independent. You cannot certainly dance to the tune of anybody else other than yourself, your own conscience. So CBI is only responsible for itself unless and until you have a separate statute like NIA. It is not like NIA where you are a statute and the act is passed in the parliament, you are governed by your statute. No. Here, you are only, it's a section speaks about yourself, so you have to have an independent investigation, whether with consent or without consent. Otherwise, like of late, I'm finding there are so many investigations in between. A state is withdrawing, B state is withdrawing. That should not be, that is a different thing. But whether you can derail the process of investigation, my answer is it should not be. That's my precise answer.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Sharma, let me bring you into the picture now. So, does withdrawal of general consent stop all CBI probes? What happens really as far as the CBI and these states which have withdrawn general consent are concerned?
Just to build on what my friend Sangram Singh has just stated, and for more clarity, I'll just make 2 points for addressing your question. One is that CBI has concurrent jurisdiction not only in Union Territory of Delhi, but all Union Territories. So the question of consent doesn't arise. Number two, because of the constitutional framework, and of course, Constitution came into being in 1950, in 1946, when this act was made. At that time, you had Government of India Act 1935, which divided the subjects to the center and the state governments. So keeping all that in view, the Section 6 of the DPSEA Act provided that for carrying out investigation in the state, prior consent of the state government is required. Union Territory, no consent is required. State government, consent is required. So the practice that developed was that state governments accorded the consent only, and this is important, only for cases under the Prevention of Corruption Act, and that too against the central government employees, not against the state government employees, not against the state politicians, etc., and the small peripheral sections like criminal conspiracy, etc., etc. The first question is whether the state governments can withdraw consent. Answer is yes, it is the authority. Second and more important question is whether they should be doing it. I've written a whole paper on it for publication somewhere. I say they are being stupid, they are being reckless in withdrawing the consent. And I'll give 4 reasons for this. One is that Section 6, in which consent is given and withdrawn, that has become meaningless after what the Calcutta High Court said, as Sangram Singh said, and what the Supreme Court has held. The constitutional courts have held that in their writ jurisdiction, they can ask CBI to investigate any case, whether it has occurred, any crime, whether it occurred in the Union Territory or state government. So state government's consent has become more of a formality. It has lost its real meaning. Second reason I say is that there is a Supreme Court ruling which says that after withdrawal of consent, fresh case cannot be registered. But in Kaji Landup Dorji, Supreme Court says that if a case is already in an investigation, that investigation will continue. Withdrawal of consent will not affect that. That happened in my case, ISRO espionage case and all. State government withdrew the consent, but Supreme Court says no, you can't reinvestigate, and investigation will continue to CBI. This is the second reason. So fresh case cannot be registered, but ongoing case investigation will continue. Third, state governments are under pressure in sensitive cases, whether it is Hathras murder case or whether it is Sushant Singh case. So you see, when there are sensitive cases, people have greater faith in the CBI, and with begging bowl, the state governments go to the central government to say, take up this case. So therefore, according to me, withdrawal of consent is nothing but a political grandstanding. I call it much ado about nothing. I say it's an exercise in futility. I also say that it is symbolic or reflective of short-sightedness of the state governments, because the kind of polity that we have developed, the state governments sooner or later will be compelled to seek CBI intervention. So to sum up,
Okay, points taken. Points taken, Mr. Sharma. Thank you so much for so eloquently pointing out exactly, how this matter is and how sensitive this issue is and what really needs to be done and and the issues with what has already been done. All right, Dr. Vikram Singh, let me bring you into the picture now. So since we are here, and we brought up this issue of politicization, has political clout really hampered the way law and order agencies function as a whole?
Frank, Mr. M.L. Sharma, esteemed Mr. M.L. Sharma, and respected Mr. Sangram Patnaik ji have shed enough light on the legal aspects. It is difficult to find a single more potent reason than the grassroots politics that impact the decision in respect of handing over the investigation to the CBI and obstructing it tooth and nail. If there is one solid reason, and that is politics and nothing but politics. Esteemed Mr. Sharma mentioned Hathras case, Sushant Singh case. I would also bring to your memory the Arushi murder case. If there was anything that was the bottom line, perhaps the pursuit of the truth became secondary, politics became primary. And that is, of course, the sound reason. Whether the consent is given, withdrawn, handed over to the CBI, the purpose is basic and robust politics. And at the end of the day, what is the end product and what is there for me as far as politics is concerned, playing up to the gallery. And in the latest case of Sushant Singh case, everything it came, the poor boy from this particular state. I have my question, I have my apprehensions whether this issue would continue to live after the 10th of this month when the results are out. Because then, as many of the learned thinkers say, that it would be kicking and flogging a dead horse because the issue would have died. Nobody is seriously concerned about the perpetrators of the crime. But the fact remains that yes, how could they garner more votes in the ongoing election process? And that was the case also. Not only in Hathras, what happened? Hathras, whatever be the case, I will not comment on that because it's sub judice. But the fact remains that there was much more to it than what meets the eye. And there were caste, there was communal angle, there was politics, and everything except to get a vigorous pursuit after the culprits, Frank.
Absolutely. All right, taking the discussion forward now to bring in other aspects as well. Sangram Patnaik, very quickly, what types of cases does the CBI investigate in states?
See, if you broadly divide it, it can be economic, the crimes, corruption cases, special crimes, high-profile cases. CBI can investigate. There is no doubt about it. Insofar as the center goes and for the state goes, it is only with regard to the cases which of late being politicized for no reasons or rhymes, we could have certainly avoided. CBI should be and ought to be an independent agency, no doubt about it. But since 8 states have taken off their consent, people are thinking, being in a cooperative federalism, the country as of ours, if the 8 states have taken out their consent, if there is an investigation carried out, be that an economic crime, be that a corruption cases, be that a member of parliament has done something wrong and the CBI is appointed, whether those cases can be investigated in the states where he actually residing as of now. So therefore, the kind of cases that CBI is investigating, that is clear, or there is no doubt about it. But whether you can actually derail these investigations by taking out consent, answer is already there from my brothers who are very eloquent in their presentation in this panel. So therefore, my only point is that CBI's restriction is actually, it is upon himself or itself that yes, what should be controlling authority, not the state government or the central government, the political party of the day. Sorry, I have a different take on this. CBI has to choose that yes, how he has to operate. That independent body of investigating a crime, right? So what is the fair nature of investigation? That you must take out the truth. So any kind of crimes that I've stated just now, the truth must come out. The state, whether it gives a consent or no consent. For example, Mr. Madhavlal Sharma just now pointed out, suppose I don't give a consent. Can I take a consent? Answer is yes. I can, by file a writ petition in 226, 227 in a concerned High Court, I can take the consent of that investigation that yes, I must go ahead with the investigation. So what is this cosmetic, concept called now? If I don't give the consent as a state, you cannot enter upon. For example, this gold case in Kerala, for example. Suppose Kerala government says, no, I will not give the consent to the CBI to investigate upon. Then what would happen? Ultimately, you are brushing under the carpet certain things or certain actually culprits by virtue of this consent or no consent.
Sure.
Truth must come out. If the person is held to be liable after investigation, he must be held to be liable. Why? What is the question of I don't give the consent? Suppose the Kerala government say, because of the Saudi Arabia, this gold case, where I would not give the consent, so there is no investigation. Who is at loss? It is the country. It is our republic is at loss. Not anybody. It is not a political party is at loss. So that's my answer. The investigation, the kind of crimes the CBI is going into, that must be culminated into the truth. And actually, end of it, we are aware and we should be aware of what is the truth, who is culprit, he should be put behind bar.
Mr. Sharma, talking about another aspect altogether, why doesn't the CBI enjoy all India jurisdiction like, the other central government agencies, for instance, the NIA? And do you believe that the time is ripe that the CBI too enjoys the same kind of jurisdiction like the NIA?
It's a extremely sensitive and delicate constitutional issue. NIA Act, it stands on very fragile constitutional grounds. Fortunately for us, nobody has challenged it because they have jurisdiction only in 8 crimes: hijacking, killing head of the state, and certain other offences, unlawful activities prevention act and so on and so forth. So it doesn't hurt the state governments any manner. So therefore they have kept quiet. Otherwise it stands on a very fragile ground because police, law and order and investigation, they are exclusively state subjects. That's why the central government is wary of coming out with a new law. People talk about creating a new law, formulating a new law to give so-called All India Jurisdiction CBI. I hold the view, even though I worked with the CBI 20 years, it's very difficult to do it because Constitution can't be amended. The kind of political structure that we have and the kind of polity that we have. So therefore, what is to be done is let the legal framework be same as it is. Let us enrich it by what our friend Sangram Singh says, cooperative federalism. So now withdrawal of consent, my understanding, is not so much a distrust in CBI, is more reflective of the some kind of division or some kind of tension in the center-state relations. So CBI doesn't have to do much. The case comes, they'll investigate. Doesn't come, doesn't matter. It is for the central government to mend its behavior or to develop better behavior with the state governments. But I have already said that state governments are being stupid. They are not going to gain anything. You simply pamper some chief minister and they'll restore the... So basically it's a reflection of center-state relations. So real rub lies there. So jurisdiction will come when the case comes to you. Case can't come to you unless the state government's under pressure to give the case to you. So this tussle has been continuing last 70 years and will continue for some more time. There is very little scope to bring about amendment the constitution. So whatever structure we have, we should try to make best of the existing structure.
Absolutely. Make the best of what we have. Absolutely. All right. So, Dr. Singh, let's talk about a completely different aspect now altogether, something that we've not spoken about in the program over the last 20 minutes or so. So, can't the state police conduct high-profile investigations? What's lacking? And aren't they as efficient as the CBI?
Frank, let us understand that the CBI is made by deputationists in a very large number. The CBI has a cadre of its own, but it is supplemented and ably and competently assisted by the deputationists of all ranks within the CBI. The CBI works in a different ecosystem, and the state investigating machinery works in a different ecosystem. The tools are the same, but the ecosystems are different. And when the ecosystems are different, the end products are also very different. The priorities are different. The time frame is different. So comparison should be between comparables. In the same state, what to talk of within the CBI? You saw the RFC case, the ding-dong and the seesaw battle that happened. They changed the findings thrice. And I could give you any number of examples since the time is less. But you began, say that this is the North Pole. No, it's not the South Pole. No, this is the equator. At the end of the day, I do feel within the state, I have no hesitation in saying that the concept and the philosophy of show me the man and I'll show you the rules is prevalent in a scale of 1:10 to say maybe something around 7 out of 10. Within the CBI, I don't say that it is absolutely invincible and oblivious to all extraneous pressure, but there, the syndrome of show me the man and show you the rules exists maybe not more than 2 out of 10. And here is the quality difference. The state can upgrade the skills. The state can increase. There is no denying the fact that the best investigation practices are there with the CBI, whether it is forensics, whether it's ballistics, whether it's scientific aids to investigation. I would say that the CBI is the best, and not to utilize the services and the excellence of the CBI by the states would be an administrative tragedy. I would strongly recommend that there is a capacity building within the states, but also the ecosystem where you say that the investigation should be fair and as sacred as the court proceeding in itself. But 20% of convictions and 80% of acquittals is a very sorry state of affairs we are living in, Frank.
Absolutely. All right. Time now to get quick closing comments from all my panelists with the best way forward, starting first with you, Sangram Patnaik.
Insofar as the CBI goes, that's my first statement, and the last statement would be also that it has to carry its own image. Nobody is going to build the image, neither for the central government to the state government. Second, consent is not mandatorily required. Third, consent or without consent, CBI must prove in an absolutely independent manner to reach to the bottom of the truth. Fourth, insofar as the CBI's image goes, it has to build it, whether the consent was A party, B party in the center, C party in the state. It has nothing to do with independence. You cannot certainly throw the baby with the bathwater. There may be certain things which you can ignore, but CBI would remain CBI, maybe with a new statute. I may slightly differ with Mr. Sharma that yes, if we have a statute of Act of a Parliament, probably all these consent, these cosmetic changes would not come in life. CBI would be allowed to do its job in absolutely clear motive to bring out the truth, end of the day.
All right. Mr. Sharma.
Very simple. Basically, I'll repeat what I said earlier. The state government should mend their ways. They should not upset the apple cart. The system which has been failing last over 70 years, that should be allowed to function. So they should restore the general consent for CBI investigation, their jurisdictions. Number two, the central government should take an extra step to mollify the herd sentiments of the state governments so that they restore the jurisdiction. Third, whatever comes on the plate of CBI, they should investigate with 100% professionalism without any fear of favor, which, as Vikram Singh says, mostly they do, exceptions apart.
Absolutely. All right. And Dr. Vikram Singh, close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
Public interest and the pursuit of truth are the paramount interests, and there can be no compromise on that, and they're not negotiable also. Therefore, anyone who obstructs a CBI investigation is doing something that is anti-people, and it is totally unacceptable. There should be a no-nonsense approach to CBI investigation, with you, without you, and in spite of you. As Mr. Sangram Patnaik ji has said, So CBI and the nation cannot feel helpless because of 8 states or any other states who choose to withdraw the general consent, because there's always a judicial avenue available to all of us to explore the ways. Why should any state there's no heavenly earthly reason why one should obstruct the pursuit of truth honestly, because it is in public interest and national interest. Thank you, Frank.
All right. On that note, then, I'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. What's coming out of this discussion is that the issue of the CBI and general consent and the states is a highly politicized issue, and it should not be done, is what the panelists are suggesting. The truth must come out, and the CBI is best, or rather is in the best position to ensure that it brings out the truth in most of the cases, and it does so almost all of the times. All right, don't upset the apple cart. This is a system that has been working for several decades now, so please go with it until we get a better system. And also, the CBI needs to work without fear or favor, and that's the best way forward. As far as the CBI is concerned, the entire ecosystem is extremely conducive, whereas the state government or the state investigating agencies do not have the same kind of ecosystem, and they are in a class of their own. That is the CBI, and that's why the CBI must have complete control of most of the cases that it handles. That's it from me. See you again next time.